Welcome back to College Football Addiction. Clemson Football Lives. Brian, what's up, man? Tough win? Is that what you said? Look, we're going to talk about Georgia Tech, Clemson here in a minute, but I know you're fired up, so let's just get rolling. Clemson sneaks out a win on Saturday, one that you were in attendance for. Now, look, people like to get on you for, you're so negative. Why you bring the negative guy on this, that, and the other? But we're getting less and less of those comments as the years go by. But I will say, can you somewhat, now I've seen this, right? Like, this is a tale as old as time. And when it's your team, it sucks and it hurts more. But like seeing a team play really poorly with like a bad weather delay, coming off of a big game last week, going into a who cares game the next week, like, of course you'd like to see your team go out and just beat the tar out of somebody. My concern level for Clemson is not like sky high right now. There is some concern and there is some like, but coming out of the weather delay, playing a crappy opponent, like I would be more surprised if Clemson doesn't kind of turn things on, turn things around. If it was Florida State that did the same thing that Clemson did this last week, they were losing at halftime to a bad team, all these things. I'd be saying that all the same things you are. But I will say, like, from kind of an outsider's perspective, my concern level is not up to 11 for Clemson yet, but the floor is yours. I'll let you talk about it.
You know, I have one mouth and about 60 thoughts trying to get out at one time, and it just turns into just good old-fashioned annoyance. Here's the summary. Yeah, there was a rain delay. Yes, you're coming off of a game that you lost by 7 points. You feel like the offensive scheme was not good at all. We had a few flashes of brilliance. Then we start nitpicking Cade of, he missed a throw here, missed a throw there, versus going, hey, what was the overall scheme like? I mean, especially after watching Gus Malzahn at Florida State give it to Alabama, and then we have to turn around and watch that strategy, and so that doesn't sit well with you. But going into this game, as you said, I was at the game. There was a rain delay. The game, if my memory serves me correct, actually started a little late because of a rain and lightning. It was a lightning delay. But the Valley was really weird to start with. There wasn't a lot of people at the game, considering it's the Clemson Stadium and so on, and its capacity. It was just really weird. And the players were flat. Even some of the coaches seemed flat. Seemed like they didn't even care to be there. And then Troy came out and punched them in the mouth right off the bat. I mean, first drive, they had a long touchdown pass a couple of plays in. And then all of a sudden, in the third quarter, this magical offense that we hadn't seen all game shows up, takes over. Now, the defense did create some turnovers. One set up a really quick touchdown for us on a short field. So credit the defense. But it was all of a sudden, and you can tell I'm like, this offense comes out of nowhere. Not the best offense in the world, but it was different than what we saw in the first half. Scored quick. It was imposing their will on Troy, and suddenly Clemson's up, and then it goes away. And now that leaves the question in the Clemson community, and you can go check the comments under my videos since that game. Who was calling the plays in the third quarter? What happened? And so I've had some fun with it, but really, what happened? There's in a major Clemson publication that's been around for a while. One of their main writers wrote this morning that someone who, if I understand correctly, is a donor, texted him and said, "This is an abomination. Clemson begs for money. They charge ungodly prices for tickets. It's the pricing for parking is ridiculous. They're always begging for money, and then you give us this. This is an abomination." So, if that's from a major donor, you can only imagine the heat that is starting to turn up. Even Dabo said he was booing with the crowd. So
That's pretty good. Listen, I know you're not super thrilled with Dabo. That's a good line. All right, let's give him some credit there. That's pretty good.
That was pretty good. So
Dabo's like in that Spurrier vein, where I maybe Clemson fans don't like that as much, but I don't either as a Florida State guy. But Spurrier had some good one. That's a good one-liner by Dabo. I got to give him that. I didn't hear that now.
Yeah, he said I was even booing with him. So
that's funny.
But here's the thing. And I have a lot of respect for Coach Sweeney. I'm not talking trash here, folks. I'm not asking for Dabo to be fired or anything wild like that. It's just Coach Sweeney, you are the one who's in charge of that team, and the offense was absolutely. Let's get out of the X's and O's and let's just get into what is the results. The results was Troy was handing it to you in your backyard. And a lot of people would say, well, Troy came in and played us tough after this emotional game against LSU. Yeah, but this offense has been struggling for 5 years now, okay? We are on offensive coordinator number 3, and this is year 3 with this coordinator. I mean, sorry, it's this goes beyond just saying, oh, we have a game plan, we missed a few passes. What are the results? And that's kind of where I'm at with it. But anyway, we pulled out the win. We're going to play Georgia Tech. Haynes King sat out because, well, they run him 75 times a game. So hopefully we'll do a little better.
Yeah, and listen, a lot of these teams I'm going to mention are better than. Hey, I got my coffee too, just like you. But early morning recording here on the show. A lot of these teams are better than Troy. There's no doubt. So you got to bring your at least B plus or preferably A game. Appreciate Sleeper for their support. Listen, there's fantasy football on that app. There's eliminator leagues. Maybe we'll do a double fries, no slaw pick'em that you guys can get involved with. Give away some tickets to the Champions Club or something like that for the winner. Mental note that down. We'll get it done. But listen, we've been making money with the more or less. Hopefully you took some of that more and that less in that USF game here. Sleeper has a phenomenal interface. One of the best places you can go just to go check the scores. There's a USF UF score that you guys all enjoyed from Saturday. You can see their fans freaking out in the comments on it. You need to be on the Sleeper app. Use our code DFNS for a 100% match up to $100. If you want to play the more or less game with me and Richie every Wednesday night, we would encourage you to do so. But one way or the other, you should have this app. You should use our code to get it so that when you do deposit, you can get that bonus. But make sure that you go check out Sleeper's terms and conditions. They do apply. See their terms of use for details. Appreciate Sleeper for their support. It's the app that you guys need to be on for all things sports. But past Georgia Tech, Clemson should have really good chances to win a lot of games this year. They're just going to be a lot more talented than teams. You would think that once they get into conference play here next week, they will hopefully care more than they did against Troy. It would be a monumental upset if they lost to Syracuse, UNC, Boston College. Duke is in there. Even SMU coming to town. I'm not super impressed with them to start the year. We'll see if they can kind of figure things out by the middle of the year. Things certainly get tougher later with Florida State, Louisville, and South Carolina late in the year. But they've got a chance to, in my opinion, if they can get past the Georgia Tech game, they've got a chance to really figure themselves out for that late stretch in November, right? I think you got to get past Georgia Tech. I think they could lose that and be fine, but you can't lose that one. And if you do go and win that, which you should, you've got a long stretch of 5-6 games where you can really kind of figure yourself out before it does get really, really tough in November. But you can't fall asleep at the wheel, right? You fall asleep at the wheel and lose to one of those teams that I just mentioned, then you have no margin for error when you play the Florida States and the Louisvilles that maybe are a little bit better than we were expecting earlier in the year. Georgia Tech specifically, I love Haynes King, right? And I end up pulling for Clemson a little bit, not real hard, but I like Clemson to do well just so our matchup is big and good and we get game day and we play a night game and all those things. And maybe I have a soft spot for Dabo too, because everybody seems to not hate him, but give him crap at this point. But I love Haynes King, right? I think he is so much fun to watch. I think when you think about college football players that just literally don't care about their health, their body, what whether or not they're going to have any, life after football. I love the way he plays, but man, I think they're going to kill him. I worry about his health, man. They had to run him so much against Colorado, and Colorado's got some really good athletes and stuff. And man, he took a beating in that game, had to sit out you shouldn't have to sit out game 2. That shouldn't be a thing. You come into a season fully healthy, shouldn't have. And I worry about him playing against Clemson's defense, right? We can nitpick what Clemson does and how they played against Troy. They still got guys that'll hit. They still got Sammy on that side. They still got a lot of big defensive linemen that I worry about Haynes King's health. And so that is a big question to me is, man, how much do they, because I think Georgia Tech needs to win this game. I think Georgia Tech really wants to get to the playoff. They need to, or to the ACC championship. They need to take down Clemson. And yeah, so I worry about that. I worry about what their strategy looks like against a really good, really athletic, really aggressive Clemson defense under Tom Allen. Do they try to not run Haynes until the second half? Do they try to get away from that? Or is this a situation where we could be looking up at the third quarter and the backup may be in because Haynes is just taking another beating? So as much as I love him as a player, man, I worry about his health in a matchup like this.
I really like his style of quarterback. I mean, there's so many guys right now who, I mean, obviously you don't want to sacrifice your body and knock yourself out of a season. It hurts you, and especially if you want to go to the NFL, it hurts your NIL. It hurts. It costs the team. Okay, you're the starter for a reason. But at the same time, I really like Haynes King's toughness. He's a workhorse. He's a guy who can take a team who they're on the brink of being good, but they still have some things that they can't get past and can make them, maybe a 500 team, sub 500. He's the difference between being a 500 team and an 8 or 9 win football team. Mm-hmm. He's that guy. But like you said, the guy can only sustain so many hits. And so for me, I think for us Clemson fans, we would like to see a little more aggressiveness out of Clemson's defense. I'm a little shocked that Tom Allen hasn't brought the heat as much as I thought he was. Now, in the second half against Troy, and I know that was Troy, we saw some incredible defensive plays. In fact, one of my favorite players now on the Clemson football team is Ronan Hannafin, a guy who's a safety. He is flying around everywhere, but not out of control. He is flying around the field, creating plays, tackling people. He had an interception, almost had 2 interceptions. Guys like him will light up Haynes King. Guys like, you mentioned it, Sammy Brown, Peter Woods, Cape Hart. I mean, they'll light him up. Will Helt, the guy we got out of Purdue, I saw him on the field after the game. This guy literally looks like a Viking. He is our sack leader right now. He'll hit him, and in a line is a bunch of other guys who will hit him and not even trying to hurt him. They're just going to hit hard because that's what they do. That's what they're supposed to do. So it'll be really interesting to see how Haynes King does against that. On the flip side, if Haynes King gets to going and Clemson does not control him, and of course Jamal Haynes, we could see a really close football game, and if it comes down to our offense having to dig us out, I mean, right now our offensive numbers are so terrible in our rankings. I mean, right now we're ranked so low offensively, it's laughable. So maybe that keeps Georgia Tech in the game. I mean, right now we're 110th in scoring offense. We're 128th out of 136th in rushing. We're 77th in passing. So if for some reason Georgia Tech can hang around and keep Haynes King nice and healthy and not overwork him and him take some big hits to where the backup has to come in and play like he did against Gardner-Webb and did very well, even though it was Gardner-Webb, we may be seeing a close ball game on Saturday.
Yeah, I'd really like to see Clemson's offensive line get pushed. I really do think that Georgia Tech does a good job on their offensive line. I think Clemson can run on Georgia Tech if they can get it established early, if they can get the push up front, which they should, right? This is not LSU's front, which I think is really, really good. And that's no slight to Georgia Tech. I'm not trying to crap talk them. But I do think that if Clemson can establish the run early, which that's such a fundamental thing, right? TJ said, establish the run, it'll open up the pass. Well, obviously, right? But like that's how all college football games work. You try and establish the run, and if you can, it'll make things a lot easier on Cade. If the weather can cooperate, right? Which in the South here, who knows in September if the weather cooperates or not. Obviously, that was a problem last week. If they can establish the run, let Cade go out and be Cade. Open the playbook up. And I do wonder, you talk about the play calling and stuff. I wonder how much, and I know this probably doesn't make you feel better because I know how you feel about the offense. I feel like this is a counseling session more than an interview. But I wonder how much they're really trying to open it up against Troy, right? Like I think I'll give the offense, the play calling, the OC some credit there and say like, is Riley trying to pull out the tricks against this team? Probably not, right? And just go out and win because you're a little bit better team. Whereas, this weekend against Georgia Tech, to me, there are places they could trip up. This is their last real big test before they get to November. They should win a lot of games in September and October. And so this would be the one where I would say, okay, if the offense doesn't put it together here, that's when you have to start looking at the rest of the schedule and saying, dude, when are you going to do it? Like you're going to go out and beat Duke. You're going to go out and beat some of these teams on this schedule. Syracuse, you should have a fairly easy time with. I don't think they're a great team this year, losing all they did. But man, if you don't do it now, you could lose any game. And so I do have some confidence they'll pull a little bit more out. I think that they'll be able to run the ball more effectively. I do think that that'll open things up for Cade. But man, you're right. I mean, we've seen upsets already. Florida State was a 14-point dog. USF was an 18-point dog. Boise State was a favorite. Like there have been some big upsets already. And the key to it is if that team sticks around, right? And that's where I think Clemson has to, I don't think they're going to just go in there and beat Georgia Tech by 20. That's not my take. But if they can kind of put this away where they're up by 10 to start the fourth quarter, right? The other team hasn't really hung around. They would need a monster fourth quarter to come back and Clemson to stop scoring, right? You go up by 10 in the fourth quarter and you score at any point in that quarter, you're probably going to win. And so that's where I think if they can just kind of control the game, control the line of scrimmages, which I think they will, that's what puts Clemson in a really good spot to have a lot of success in this game. It is on the road. It is in conference. Georgia Tech, was my pick I picked Louisville, I guess, to go to the ACC championship. I picked Georgia Tech to finish like third or fourth, right? It was kind of them or Miami in that next spot for me. And I know that's changed now with some different things that have happened in the year, namely in maybe Tallahassee. But I do think that there's this is not a team you can take lightly by any means, but it's still a team that Clemson should beat. There's no question that if they go out, and honestly, if they played a B-plus type game, A-minus type game, they should still kind of win. It might be closer than Clemson fans want, but to me, I think they just need to – you can't go out and play a C game on the road in conference. That would be what's trouble because Haynes King can take over, and he's done it. He did it against Florida State. He did it against Miami last year. He did it against Georgia. He's done it, right? And so if they can just control the line of scrimmage, they should be fine in this one.
Yeah, I think you hit on something there. You were talking about not showing your plays against Troy, and I even did a video last week called "We'll Have 1,000 Yards Against Troy." It kind of being a little sarcastic because we open up the playbook most of the times against teams that you don't have to open up the playbook.
Maybe Garrett watched your video.
Maybe he did, and what he did was he overcorrected and said, "We're going to shut the playbook."
Yeah, 64 yards.
We're not doing any of that. We're going to shut that smart aleck up. But no, the thing for me is that in a game like this, our offense has to show up. Oh. We did run the ball this week versus the week before. We forsook the run. I don't know what it is with LSU and us forsaking the run. We did that in the national championship against them with Joe Burrow, and we had ETN as our running back. Now, come on, y'all. Come on. And then you do it again at home in a game you've known about for years now that it was coming up. You had an entire offseason. We did run the ball this past week with Adam Randall, the wide receiver converted to running back. I met him after the game. He's massive. He's a massive running back. And I saw the other running backs, guys that are highly recruited. They're a lot smaller than him, and they're more my size, believe it or not. But he's a big dude. He rushed for over 100 yards. He did a pretty good job. In this game, the only thing is, TJ, when are you going to open the playbook against a good football team? When are you going to be creative when you need to be creative? When are you going to catch them off guard? This is a third year with Garrett, and this is a third year with Cade as a starter. You have an offensive line that has struggled, believe it or not, and we're a little shocked at that. But Matt Luke's on the sideline. I have full faith in him that he'll pull it together. And I saw him working his butt off. The other day when everybody was kind of lazy on the sidelines, he and one of other few more coaches were still coaching them up. He was on it because Matt Luke is a genius at what he does. But we still have 4 out of 5 offensive linemen there. We still have the wide receiver room. Even with Antonio Williams, Tyler Brown has stepped right in, and there's been no fall off. So that excuse, I won't take that excuse from anyone who's just looking for some reason, some outlier. The point is, man, even our tight ends are really good. We have to open it up against Georgia Tech just because we respect Tech and Brent Key. I respect him. So if we go in and we play conservative, we let them hang around, that could definitely get us.
Yeah, need to take advantage of mistakes, too. They had 3 turnovers in that game against Colorado, and I'm not saying that they will have more or less. Maybe they'll play a little bit better at home, a little bit better in week 3 than they did in week 1. 3 turnovers in that game against Colorado, and Colorado just couldn't capitalize. Colorado had a chance to be up 2 or 3 scores in the first half of that game. And that's a much different game, having to try and come back from down multiple scores on the road when you're primarily a running team with a running quarterback. I think it's a lot tougher to come back. Colorado could not put them away. In fact, Georgia Tech went to the half with a 20-10 lead, and Colorado came back a little bit. But Clemson, if they get those opportunities, if they can, whether it's sheer luck because a guy fumbles or whether it's, you're making a play as a DB, you've got to capitalize on that. And, short fields are a big deal. You can't go the Colorado route where you get gifted all of these extra possessions and you basically do nothing with it. I think that's big. And Clemson historically, I know that we're 2 games into this season, so what they've done in the past doesn't really – Clemson historically does do a pretty good job of capitalizing off of turnovers. When you give them that kind of shorter field or a big swing play, a big sudden change, they've typically done a good job of capitalizing there. They need to make sure they do that because I do think that there will be opportunities for it. And then on the other side, Clemson certainly needs to take care of the ball themselves and not go into these lulls, right? We saw the lull in the second half of the LSU game. We saw the lull in the first half of the Troy game. Again, weather, all these things. But, there could be weather. It rains every day in Atlanta, right? Like, there could be weather in Atlanta that happens. So if Clemson can just to me, man, they are so much talent. It just truly feels like, man, if you can just get out of your own way, you'll be fine, right? Like, if you just shut up and get out of your own way, you'll be in pretty good shape. Now, Georgia Tech's a good team. I think Brent Key's one top 5 coach in the conference, and probably on the top end of that, right? I think Braum is up there. Certainly Dabo is up there. I think there are other good coaches. Lashley's up there, but I think they're gonna be coached up well, and Clemson's got to just take care of themselves, and they should be fine here.
Yeah, Clemson having the brand, having the recent history over the past 15 years especially, everything that they've accomplished, and still being respected in college football as a team that you have to pay attention to, of course they're going to have a big target on their back.
Sure.
You as a Florida State fan knows what that looks like for a very long time. Like, people are circling that game against Clemson just like they used to circle it against Florida State. I remember getting the schedule, and the very first thing I was looking for was, where's Florida State? You know? That's what's still happening with Clemson. Clemson, this is not a news flash to them. This is not breaking news. They know that they're going to get people's best effort. So with that, whether it's playing LSU or it's playing Georgia Tech in Atlanta, only about a 2-hour drive roughly from Clemson, right down Interstate 85, we know what's coming for us.
Yeah.
So you can't go out there and start slow and come up with some, everybody's gunning for us and this, then you're going to have to prepare for that.
Yeah.
Because you almost lost to Troy at home. And I even saw our AD standing on the sideline the other day, and I don't keep up with Graham Neff. I don't. But I can read people, and he didn't have some scowl on his face. He had that nervous look with his arms crossed, kind of like, okay, look, losing to LSU was not LSU. We didn't like that. We really don't like that we lost to them, but it's understandable. Troy, you can't sell that. We can't beg for money from donors with a loss from Troy. Or lost with Troy, so against Troy. So, I need stronger coffee so I can speak a little better. But the point is, we know that Georgia Tech is gunning for us. We know Brent Key can play. We know Haynes King will sacrifice his body. Ask Georgia. Georgia's still sweating that 8 overtime game. They're still sweating it. And Mario Cristobal has nightmares of Haynes King just running. So with that said, us Clemson fans know. We know what's coming for us this coming Saturday. The question is, does the game plan? acknowledge it, address it, and prepare for it.
Yeah, I like that point you made about the joke on social media is like, this is their Super Bowl, this other team's Super Bowl. And I think for years that's been, Florida State dealt with that in the 90s. Like people it's easy to get up to when you play Florida State when they're at their best. It's easy to get up when you play Clemson at their best. I'm not saying the win was easy, but I think it was easy for Florida State to get up for Alabama. Now, I'm not saying that beating them was easy, but being motivated for that, it's a lot easier to get up for Alabama than it is to get up for UVA on a Friday night. No disrespect to the Hoos. But I think, same thing. And, when Florida State's a little bit down or a lot bit down like last year, the other team doesn't say, oh, well, Florida State's not good, we don't have to take this seriously. No, they want to beat you as much as they can because this might be their only chance, right? Duke has only beat Florida State one time in program history, and they were fired up and ready to do it last year, right? And so Clemson, maybe they're down right now. Maybe these first 2 weeks are not what the season will be, but they don't look right now like the Clemson of 2016 and 2018, right? Like they don't look like that team. And so if you're Georgia Tech, shoot, next week, if you're Syracuse, if you're Duke, any of the other teams, this might be your best chance to do it, right? Now, I know some of these teams have won against Clemson in the past, but it's not a regular occurrence, right? And so this might be your only chance to get a big win. And even when they're good, it's easy to get up for them because, man, go slay the giant, right? Like we've all heard the David and Goliath story. But I think that's such a good point is Clemson doesn't get an off week. Clemson and Florida State and Miami too, and Notre Dame and Alabama, all these big time brands and programs, there's not a, oh man, well, we'll overlook them, right? Like sometimes you can overlook like a Syracuse or a Virginia because you got a big game there. There's no bigger game on a schedule than when you play FSU, Clemson, Notre Dame, Miami, Alabama, Ohio State. All of your focus, all of your attention is there. And so I think that's a really good point you make. We're running out of time. I appreciate you for joining us. It's really early in the week, so I won't hold you real hard to a prediction here because I'm sure you'll change it up. Number one, what's your prediction? How do you lean on how this thing goes? And then also, where can people follow you? Where can they find your work?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as of today, Clemson's an 8.5 to 9 point favorite going into Atlanta. Everybody can't unsee what they just saw. The country just saw the offense that was questionable. There's that, and then next up, the Clemson fans saw an offense come alive in the third quarter and then go away, so we know it's there. What I lean towards is Clemson winning this ball game, but I think it's going to be a tough game. I think it's going to be a really tough game. I don't believe that our offensive strategy is going to change overnight, and this is what I'm saying to all my Clemson brethren out there. It hasn't been good for 5 years, and that's 3 different offensive coordinators. So I'm just going to put that where it's at for anyone who wants to say have some faith in Clemson. I do have faith in Clemson, but I also believe in history, and I also believe in learning from the past and the recent past. Our offensive strategy is not using the talent that we have. So I expect an extremely close game. Wouldn't be shocked if Georgia Tech won. I want to be very clear there. This has upset written all over it, and I don't think it's as much of an upset as a lot of people would probably consider it. But I lean Clemson going in, being a little scared, probably being irritated. Probably some coaches are getting a good talking to this week behind closed doors from Coach Sweeney. The donors are ticked off because, you buy a Ferrari, you expect the performance of a Ferrari, not a 1998 Corolla with duct tape holding the fender together. So I expect a close game. I do see Clemson winning this ball game in a hard-fought game. You can find me on YouTube at Clemson Football Live. Drop a line. Let me know you saw me on here. Also, I have another channel called Another College Football Podcast. It's a brand new channel where I just talk about college football as a whole. By the way, I called South Florida beating Florida. I said, I see this. And I also, now I didn't double down here, but I also called Mississippi State and Arizona State. So I'm feeling good, man.
Yeah. With your magic touch, keep calling Florida State to win, at least until that first week or second weekend in November, because I don't know how that'll work. But I think Clemson wins this 27-21. I don't know why we do predictions. I've never been right before on like a score, but we do it anyway. And so whatever. I do think Clemson. I think Georgia Tech covers. I think it's relatively close, But I do think Clemson squeaks it out and then goes on a little bit of a run to set up a pretty fun game in Death Valley when the Noles come. So, Brian, thanks for hanging out, man. Good luck this weekend. Always appreciate your time, and we'll talk soon, buddy.
Man, I appreciate it. It's always fun being on here.